So back into this Courtenay 5C. I've got a good deal of progress made on making this match the original factory schematic. As you're aware, I decided to go back to factory on this and dispense with all the modifications it's had over the years. At this point, I'm just going to get stuck in and do the remaining few caps and check the circuit over one more time, and we're going to power it up, see what happens. Always clean your tip before sticking it in. Alright, so this one is a 0.1 from pin 4. So pin 4, which should be connected to pin 5, and there's our 0.1. So it's off the cathode. 0.1 to ground. 4 and 5, correct, right. 0.1, here's one I prepared earlier. Now, I'm not going to easily get this from here across to that earth tab, but I've got another earth tab right here which is going to reach quite nicely, so that's where I'm going. Oh. Who knew? Budsy. Who would have thought? I'd start recording and Bud would show up. He's on his way out to see the horse. He's very excited. Backtracking and double checking a couple of things here because it has been a while since I played with this. I know I've done all this, so it's really just over here. And in fact, at this point we've got a couple of Phillips caps here, which may be okay. We've got the volume control to figure out. So center tap of the volume control I have wired to earth. When it's fully counterclockwise, this pin is basically connected to the wiper or to ground. So we're dumping, at this point we want to dump all our aerial signal straight to ground so that we've got no volume as such. So aerial in, and so that is that end there. So that is the green wire and that is the red wire. So when we turn it full volume, it's earthed here, which means there's a 10k resistance between aerial and earth. Electrons will take the easiest path. What's basically happening is if the wiper's over here, aerial's shunted straight to ground, it's the easiest path for the electrons to take. If it's over here, 10k resistance, they'll go up through these coils to ground. Low volume, high volume. And then the red side needs to go to our 25k 400 ohm and 50k 1 watt. So that is a 390 ohm resistor stuck on there, which needs to go to pin 5. It needs to go over here. We also need 25k, so that's a 20k, but it's probably gone high. I'm sure I measured this last time. As I said, last time was a while ago. So it's probably high and probably about where I need it to be. Whew! Shouldn't be that high. But that needs to be 25k from HT, and then we need another 25k from there to here. So that's 50k. I'm going to ping that out, replace it with a 25k and put another 25k. Okay, so 27k it'll be. No, it won't, because I haven't got 27k. I've got 56s, which I almost never use as a value, so if I parallel those up, I'm going to end up with about 28k. 28k is going to be fine. What we've got here, I think, is basically a voltage divider. That is screen grid voltage. If you follow this to ground on full volume, we'd have exactly half of the HT voltage on the screen grids, but even at volume almost off, we got 35k there and 25k there. It's not going to vary the screen grid voltage that much, but as long as these two are the same and within QE, I think we'll be fine. I could have used 47k, which probably would have been closer, but I use 47k's quite a bit and I'm running low on those. There's one, there's the other. It's reading pretty much what I'd expect. So that should be about 9k, that one. Let's measure that while we're here. 10k. Good enough for this kid. So that's a 0.22 off the screen grid to ground at the RF end. I don't know if that's even supposed to be here. So what is this for? Extra stability perhaps? It's not supposed to be there, so let's just take it out. We can always put it back in later. The problem with these badly monkeyed sets is you just don't know what was actually a factory modification and what has been added in by some service person, and there's been the odd service person in here over the years. Some of these old service guys were pretty handy with tips and tricks. I mean, this was their bread and butter, they did it all day every day. So I often wonder when I'm taking stuff like this out, was that something that was well known to the guys that were doing this for a living? Or was it just some hack that somebody put in to solve another problem of instability or a bit of hum on the output? Either way, I know where it was. If we get some kind of weird instability, you guys yell out and I'll stick it back in. I need to get that off the screen grid there and up to here. That's the volume control done, it's that voltage divider done. So that's complete. That's connected to there and it's connected to there. That 400 ohm is connected to the cathode. That is now in circuit. We've got one unused tag strip under here now. We've got what would have been an on-off switch, which we no longer have, so I'm going to delete that. Okay, so I'm going to go through and just double check the wiring, look for any mistakes I've made or omissions, check remaining components that I can't remember doing before, and then hopefully when we get back we'll make some noise. I probably will find a switch pot to go here rather than delete this. For testing purposes, I'm going to put a bright red warning flag on it. Alright, two big pins, it's field coil. $158. $180. That's going to be my 47. That's a 57. I have to go back and look at my notes. I think this was in here. I can't see any markings that I can read anyway. Nothing on the base. Nothing on the bottle. It is in the pile of valves from here. It's probably the right one. It looks 5070. Let's see what happens. So, as always, dim bulb tester. So, switched on there, switched off via bulb. Flare, what we were looking for. I've got heater filaments going. Ooh, that's promising. Now it is a 5 valve and I haven't hooked up any kind of aerial. Oh yeah. Yes.
Yep. Employed, you've got a low deposit or had the
Alright. Yeah. Noisy birds, it's twilight outside. Well, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to take some voltage measurements and just make sure that things are okay, but that's working perfectly. I've got no shields on the valves.
Your member-owned bank. To build a great home, you need a great team. Here at TJ's, we're
Magic volume finger.
behind us, full of long-standing staff who have chosen to make.
Yep, I'm really happy with that. Pending a couple of quick checks that I need to do. And I don't think the IF is stated on here. I think it's 175. Let's see if we can find it. So we'll just drape that there. It looks like that might be 242, which would be very weird. It could be 256. That was an IF used on some of these earlier sets. I thought this would be 175, but I'll set that to 256 and try and tweak it up. I may struggle a wee bit, so what I'm going to do is chuck it on the IF and do one at a time. I don't know if you just heard that tink, but I think I know what that was, and I think I just shot myself in the foot. I think the IF is 175, and I think while trying to wind this out to 256, I've actually just popped the screw out of the stack of plates, and I may now need to pull this apart to put it back on. Yep. Alright, so if we get lucky, I'll be able to do this without too much disassembly. I'm not expecting to get all that lucky here. Ooh, 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 ooh. I might get lucky. Can you see? Down in there? Can you? You might not be able to. I can see down in there. And what I can see down in there is all the way to the spring. I'm going to be able to get in there with my finger or something and hold that down while I put this screw back in. That was lucky. Yeah, these work. You can see this one here. This is actually a spring, curved spring plate, which just, as you pull the screw in, pulls down and tightens the stack of plates, changing the capacitance. Same deal in here. These are Hammerland, I think, IFs, and some of them are a wee bit staked over on the end of the screw, so you can't actually do what I just did. Now I'm going to put this IF back together. I'm not going to have to take it out. Oh, what have I done? What have I done? I've royally shafted myself.
One eternity later.
So I'm going to crank this down to 175. So we're at 175. So I'm going to go through a proper alignment. The IFs are all out of whack, so let's pull them back in. Now quite often you'll see me do an alignment and I'll just do a quick dirty one with my ear by basically bringing all four of the IF can trimmers into alignment with each other. That doesn't give you a full alignment. What that does is make sure that all four are in alignment together. Now you can get them into alignment with each other at a point which is not optimal. These tuned circuits in these cans are designed to peak at a certain frequency, and they'll give a better response at that frequency than they will anywhere else on the curve. The idea of using a signal generator to peak these means that you pull them in on the correct frequency and then peak them all together, and that's what we're going to have to do here because they're so far out. So I've got the signal generator set up for 175 or within QE, and we're running on dim bulb, which we don't need to be, so I'm going to go full noise on that. And what we're going to do first is feed this directly into the grid cap of the IF, putting a cap in line here. I'm not using any specific value here, this is just one on the bench. It's at 0.1, should probably be a bit lower than that, but it'll block DC, and that's what I'm mainly concerned about here whilst letting the signal through. You can hear the tone is coming through, so it's quite a hefty amount of volume I'm having to put in, given that the SigGen is blowing out full volume. So I've got it with no attenuation, and I should be much louder than that, and I suspect that very shortly I will be. I'm feeding into the first IF, so I'm skipping this whole section of the radio here and just dealing with this portion, which means this is the only IF transformer that will tune. This one is out of the circuit at the moment as far as the incoming signal goes. The trick here is to work out which way to go. And there we're getting louder, so I'm starting to bring this into tune. You can see how many turns I'm doing, how far out this was. Now just turn the volume down as I go, otherwise it's going to drive you nuts. Right, so we're peaked about there on that side of the IF transformer. Turning down again. Right. That was enormously out. So those two are now peaked to pretty much 175 by feeding directly in here. And now I'm going to backtrack to here and feed directly in to the grid cap. The signal's dropped off considerably, so this one is definitely out of whack. We should have an extra stage here of amplification, so it should be louder. Let's assume no. Careful, careful, careful. Be very aware of this. Check that in a moment.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
Right, call that a public service announcement so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. We have an IF transformer here, which is connected directly to HT. An IF transformer here is connected, not directly, but directly enough. So there's very high voltages on these plates, and they go through the primary side of each IF transformer. So that trimmer and that trimmer are hot. And if you do what I did, you make sparks. Don't do what I did. Get yourself a piece of heat shrink and make it as safe as you can. Just enough blade tip to get into the slot. It won't guarantee protection. Even this, there's too much sticking out there, and this end, the sleeve is too narrow to actually go over the top of these screws. An ideal twiddle stick for these would have a diameter of tubing that was big enough to slot over the screw. These ones, the biggest ones I've got, too small. So we make do, we be careful. Alright. Now of course I should be turning down the sig gen, but it's just out of arm's reach here with the camera in the way, so we'll just turn down the volume. Yeah, Bud, really? This one's interesting. Wow. Well, what's going on with this one? It was miles off. Okay, I'm going to have to turn that down, or I'm going to blow the... I'm actually at 0 volume, but the volume won't be having a great deal of effect because I'm bypassing it here. Wow, that was unbelievably... Sorry about that lovely tone. That was unbelievably out. So this has been really, really monkeyed with. So that should be the IF's peaked at 175. I'll take that away. Sounding pretty good. That was magic talkback, I think. That'll be more talkback. It's the sports channel. And that is gold, and then there'll be coast, which I don't think we're going to get to. We just don't have the range with this set to get to the coast, which is at 1598. We're only getting about 1550. Not much I can do about that. This should be the oscillator RF antenna.
Goals, I think it is 26-22, make it 4. 10 away from 3, News Talk ZB. We'll take a break, come back, wrap the show after this.
But most people around town call him the wash-down king, because that's what Andrew does. He washes down houses, schools, motels, driveways, workplaces, even trucks, buses and machines. He'll wash down those too. And he does it so you don't have to. For the environmentally friendly Andrew, go to the Washdown King.
Alright, so that's made quite a difference there. So that's tweaked up. I've tuned the antenna for long line. Now, I won't have that inside, so that may not be quite right. I'll probably put a wee bit of an aerial on it so that it's actually usable, but certainly that won't be peaked for a shorter aerial. What I'm going to try and do now is tweak the oscillator and see if I can get coast. Don't like my chances. I think our oscillator may actually be stopping if I'm getting too little capacitance here. I'm not hearing much going on. I'm not going to play with that too much. It's just nice to have it working. We'll worry about it later on. But for now, we're done. I'm happy with that. I'm going to call it. I'm going to retweak these just to suit the stations that I will be listening to, which is likely Magic on 738. and put it back in the cabinet, call it finished.
Got a story on tape, which is fabulous.
And there you go. All done, all finished. Thanks for watching.